Good afternoon. Campbell McCrary here, Amvest Capital, live from New York City. Welcome to Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Hillcrest Energy Technologies. Trades on the CSE as HEAT and as HLRTF on the OTCQB. Hope you'll enjoy today's program. It'll also be available in on-demand replay about 2 hours after we wrap up, and you'll get an email for that. And you can also go to amvestcapital.com/replays and get a copy of that. Amvest, of course, is a New York-based specialist investment management corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resources sector. And we also have our important disclaimer. This call is most definitely for informational purposes only. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to, I've got 3 presenters today: Don Curry, CEO and Director; Ari Berger, Chief Technology Officer; and Harold Hengstenberger, Managing Director, Owner, and Founder of Systematic. Thank you very much, and let's dig in, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you, sirs.
All right. Thank you, Campbell. We really appreciate it once again to have Amvest offer a platform for us to be able to access current shareholders. We know that on this call there are a number of current shareholders. We also know that there's a number of prospective shareholders and interested parties that are looking at the company and what we have. It's an exciting day for us. For those that most probably know, but we made an announcement today about we achieving a breakthrough, and the results are of our high efficiency inverter, which will be part of this discussion, this presentation as we go forward. So thank you all that have attended. We're no different than Amvest. Here's our forward-looking statement, a necessary evil, but one you can read later on down the road. Company overview. What you'll get through this whole presentation, I hope, is that we talk about the future, but what we really understand is that the future is now. It's happening now in live time, and it's happening as fast as anyone that's alive today has experienced any sort of disruptive move. What we do, how we do it, why we do it. You know, in simple, Hillcrest, we're a clean tech innovation company. We develop high-value, high-performance control systems and electric power conversion devices. How we do it? We do it by bringing together a global team of world-class control, software, power electronics, and commercialization expertise. We're very proud of the team we've assembled. The team will grow, but I think at the core, we have 2 of the most capable people known in the world, and we'll discuss more about that as we go forward. And why we do it? Quite simply, we're investing in energy solutions that will power a more sustainable and electrified future. I mentioned it before, but the megatrend, you know, the world is racing to electrify everything, and we're on the cusp of the fastest. It is definitely the deepest and most profound energy disruption in over a century. We can't find anything else that would even come close to this. Again, we talk about the time is now, and I want to give you an example. Automotive manufacturers have all stated their time frames of where they're going from the IC, the internal combustible engine, to 100% electric. And it's happening very, very, very quickly. And this will illustrate that in 2025, Mercedes, Jaguar, Land Rover, just to mention a few, which they'll be 100% electric. And that would represent 10% of the global passenger vehicle sales. Now, if you just took Europe and the US, that number would be substantially higher, but we're talking global here. Go into 2030, Subaru, Volkswagen, Lincoln, Audi, again, just to mention a few, going 100% electric, 28%. Then you go up into the 2035, 2040, where GM has said in 2035 will be mostly electric. 2040 was when Honda said. But the interesting thing, these numbers were taken about 60 days ago, not even 60 days ago, and have since been revised to show that Honda and GM have moved completely up. Honda is moving to Volvo is moving to 2030, and GM is moving to 2025. So the world is happening, or the transformation is happening so fast that even best estimates from some of the larger companies are moving up to be able to meet and participate in the competition. This can't be done without our technological leadership. Ari Berger, who you met at the very beginning, our Chief Technology Officer, couldn't be happier to have him. He's an expert in electric control, machine control technologies. He has over a decade of commercial experience. Ari is known for taking concept to commercialization and has done that worldwide. On the call, and you'll hear a bunch of the questions being answered from Harold. Harold Hengstenberger, we're very proud to say, is our partner, our collaborative partner. He's the managing director and owner and founder of Systematic in Germany. Gives us key insight into how the auto manufacturers think. Over the 15 years with Systematic and 10 years additional to that working with automotive manufacturing. He has experience designing, manufacturing, testing, validating hybrid and electric vehicle powertrains. And we recently brought on Jalal Amini, power electronics engineer with supervisory capabilities. Jalal offers grid applicable applications or grid technology for us. He has experience in that, which gives us a broader base in going more than just EV. We can get into the grid, and that's going to be a key part as we talk about the high efficiency inverter coming forward. Just a reminder for people that know about Systematic, but those that don't know about our strategic partnership. It's a joint development. It's continuous collaborative agreement over the years. Hillcrest directs and projects and owns the IP. This is a key part. So Hillcrest will end up owning and be owning the valuable IP. It's seamless integration with Hillcrest engineering team. Quite frankly, Ari and Harold have a relationship that predates Hillcrest. They've done things together, worked on projects together for, I believe, 6 or 7 years. So there's a familiarity and a friendship between them. Systematic's capabilities, they're one of the world's best design houses coming out of Germany. They have a full spectrum power electronics engineering services, 13-member multidisciplinary team, extensive industry experience. And that team, we have at least 3 to 4 of those people that are exclusively dedicated towards the Hillcrest Systematic collaboration. We've mentioned it before. They have a comprehensive insight into the EU EV industry with some of their clients, automotive manufacturers being Audi, Porsche, Daimler, and then the tier 1 suppliers are key too. Bosch and Continental, which are the 2 world's largest automotive supply companies. Relationships are key. We just mentioned their customers, their extensive network, but more importantly, Systematic, if you go looking at them, they have an impeccable reputation throughout anything that they've tried. Hillcrest growth engine. This is the key. We're starting at a level, moving from a component into a system and beyond. So our growth engine starts with the high efficiency inverter. Those of you that know, some don't, the typical EV powertrain, it's an inverter, a motor, a battery, and an onboard charger. For those of you that, just as a recap, the inverter, it's a power inverter is one of the most important components found in electric systems. The role of an inverter is to transform direct current or DC into energy production devices, which is basically turn it into alternating current AC, and it's used by electric motors, generators, and much of the electric grid. Our HEI, the Hillcrest EV powertrain, the HEI sits where the other inverter would with the controller. There is more to come on that, but at this point in time, it's just a simple addition to a current powertrain. Delivering solutions. We're a company that believes that we've found certain problems and we will and are delivering solutions. The problems that exist, the industry challenges, electric vehicles, cost, weight, and size, they're issues. Renewable energy, power efficiency is a key. And all electrical systems, the lifetime performance. Now that makes sense. Better components, better systems improves the lifetime performance, thereby reducing cost. Delivering solutions, we mentioned, electric vehicles. We believe that our technology will result in smaller, lighter, and more powerful, higher efficiency, this is for electric vehicles, and improved powertrain reliability and performance, a key. The renewable energy sector, power efficiency, significant energy gains, efficiency gains, which we'll be able to talk about through the list of questions that we've received from shareholders, increased energy production, and better quality and greater grid stability. All electrical systems, lifetime performance, just makes sense, lower stress on electrical parts, improved thermal management, which is a key discussion going forward, and improved system performance. All of this accomplished with highly adaptive, cost-effective technology. We basically are working with all of this, and our foundational technology is the company's first step in reimagining the future powertrain. We've been asked about the size of the inverter market, and this is a key. These market sizes are key for us as we go forward. In 2018, the inverter market was listed at $53 billion. Key components in here, if you look at the two bottom, the motor drives and the EV charging, it represents about 50% of the total inverter market that existed in 2018. Now, our inverter will work in any one of the sectors of the inverter market, but we like to believe, and we believe we are, laser focusing on the motor drives and EV and charging. That's our key component here at this point in time. Interesting part is, if you go up to 2024, basically 2 years and 2 months away, it grows to $72 billion is the estimate. And you look at motor drives, EV and charging, and it represents 55% of that. So there's substantial room and opportunity that exists within the inverter market. And that's just the beginning for us. The powertrain of the future, that's something that we're working on. The HEI is a key to unlocking the potential disruptive EV power designs. Now, we talked about the inverter market. What's the global electric powertrain market? And this becomes mind-boggling in some ways. In 2020, $72 billion was the electric powertrain market. In 2028, it represents an almost 300% increase, and it will be estimated to be $200 billion. A company like ours, with the transformational technology that we believe we have and will have, there's definitely room for us to participate in these numbers. Move it a different way. The global opportunity for the electric vehicles is, in 2020, 10 million electric vehicles were sold worldwide. In 2030, it's estimated 145 million vehicles per year will be sold. 14 times in 10 years, the increase in the industry. That's an amazing number to think about, staggering for us to be included in that. Moving forward. Our timelines from lab to commercialization. In 2021, I must say at this point in time that we're very, very proud of what we've done from April, where we bought Anago, we brought Ari in as CTO, we brought in Systematic, we had funding from a New York family office. We brought in Michael Moskowitz, who was former CEO and chairman of Panasonic North America and now is CEO of North Star Gaming. We've done things in 6 months, 7 months that we didn't believe possible, and that's all based on the team. We have an operational lab. We have 2 high-efficiency inverter proof of concepts, EV and grid-tiered inverter, and Ari and Harold will be able to talk about that in the questions. We begin sourcing partners and acquisitions. The conversations have started. People keep asking. The time it takes to close or commercialize really depends on the level of customer that we're talking to. And we've added technical advisors, as I mentioned, Michael Moskowitz. Michael will not be the last. He was the first, but he will not be the last that's added to the group. We will continue to expand our team and have been talking to people within the industry that we believe will be able to assist us moving forward in a way that we use their advice and their capabilities and their experience to not make mistakes that startups might usually make. In 6 to 12 months, the HEI MVP is a minimum viable product. The commercialization development, our Tech 2 system, which we're looking forward to getting into more detail as soon as in the very near future. And R&D on other technologies. We're not just going to be sticking to these 2 things. As the industry expands and our team expands, we have the ability to look at development on next technologies. And then in the 12 to 18 months, the HEI we anticipate will be embedded into the Tech 2 system and the Tech 2 MVP. Moving forward, and I'm sure many of you have heard about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. It's a key component for any company moving forward. Institutional, it's a demand. They need to know certain things are happening within your company for them to be able to get involved in any sort of financing partnership or backing with you. It's basically, we're establishing sustainable business practices, and we're taking actions to address environmental, social, and governance. We're reducing our environmental impact. We've already shown that in our small oil asset, where we showed that we remediated the 7 non-commercial wells, not at a time where we were told we had to. We did it before we were asked to. We have to show that we're serious about what we say. We remediated those wells. The land itself will be put back into its original state in the spring, but that's above and beyond. And actually, we were given some nice comments back from government for being proactive instead of reactive. We're embracing capability and diversity in our expanding team. The team will grow. We will add capability and diversity, and we're accelerating innovation. When we come back to what we talked about today and what we released today in our inverter press release, it's very, very exciting, and I think we are moving very, very quickly. We're a company that delivers. We're not a company that wants to be that we say we're going to do something and we hope to do something. We're delivering. 2 HEI POCs, proof of concepts now. Tech 2 system, proof of concept in 2022. Engineering development partners and acquisitions. Conversations are on. How we do it comes down to the people, comes down to the team, comes down to our network. Again, we think we can stand with the best of them. We're farther advanced than most startups, if you want to call us a startup, but we're very proud of the people that we put together. The technical and commercialization expertise that we have brought in are capable of scaling, and that's important as well. Why? It's a large and expanding global market. I've said it 2 or 3 times in here. The numbers are staggering. There is substantial room for companies to be involved in. We think we accelerate that by bringing technology not yet seen to the table. And we're highly scalable, proprietary technology with applications across multiple industries. A quick summary about us, and I think I mentioned at the beginning, but after this summary, we will be answering questions, and part of those questions, we have a very involved group of shareholders, and we're appreciative of that. So a number of questions has been sent in. We have those listed. We will be answering them, and I'm sure you'll recognize your questions as you hear them. Management and advisors, myself, Ari, Michael Moskowitz I've mentioned. Jamie Hogue is our Chief Operating Officer, just mentioned or announced in September of this year, but Jamie's been involved behind the scenes for quite some time, probably up to a year now, and we're very, very happy to have her involved. And Raj Clare, our new Chief Financial Officer, got on board in the end of July and has been a real addition to the team. Our board of directors, most of you have met Michael Cruz on the last webinar, myself, the independent directors, Tom Milne, Kylie Dixon, Robert Lambert, and David Farrell. David was an advisor on our last webinar. He has now moved up to a position of board. That's a quick summary of where we are, who we are, and what we're about to do. We'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to listen in on here. We do see the value of webinars like this as the ability to answer questions and have a large number of people ask and have them answered. I don't think it's a secret, but I can say that I think there's well over 200 people that have registered and are attending. So we think we've got a nice size audience to be able to answer the questions with. Campbell, with that, I'll say thank you and pass it back to you.
We're actually at 200 live viewers as we speak. So that's very good in webinar world. So using technology to talk about technology. So what is the expected as designed efficiency improvement of Hillcrest HEI versus current state-of-the-art inverter technology, i.e., how much do you expect the range of an electric vehicle percentage-wise to be increased due to the weight decrease in the drivetrain battery systems that your HEI should facilitate?
That's thank you, Campbell. That's a perfect example where we pass it over to the technical people. Harold, would you like to start with this?
Yes, I could. And I believe this question is intended to answer the economic benefits of the HEI. But I think that efficiency and range are the wrong approach, and I will try to explain why. the key things that ultimately matter for auto manufacturer when designing their products are cost, weight, and size. And that's where HEI is coming in. The fact that HEI inverter increases its efficiency from, let's say, maybe 97% to 99 or even above, of course, is a positive effect on the range. But the efficiency of electrical vehicle today is about factor 3 to 4 times higher than of conventional combustion engine driven vehicles. While an electric mid-class vehicle consumes about 15 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, a comparable combustion engine vehicle diesel-driven vehicle, for instance, needs at least 6 liters of diesel, which corresponds to 60 kilowatt hours. And that's how this 4-time better efficiency comes together. Now, taking this already high efficiency of electric vehicles, which is in the range of 85%, that means that only 15% of losses of the electrical powertrain can be saved, and that's not that much. Furthermore, from today's perspective, it can be assumed that the race for the range will end somewhere between 600 and 650 kilometers, as at least in our opinion, this is a viable limit for economical and weight limits. So even if we assume that the remaining 15% of the losses could completely be eliminated, and that would mean 100% efficiency, which we know is not that easy to achieve, okay? The range would probably only increase by 100 kilometers, even for a high-end vehicle, and that's not that much. Now, we could assume that, of course, a battery in a big vehicle costs between 8,000 and 10,000 euros, and increasing range from 600 kilometers by 100 kilometers would enable the automakers to reduce maybe the costs by a sixth. But that's not right, because in my opinion, while this range gain would be quantifiable for car manufacturers, due to the fact that batteries have base costs, for instance, for a safety frame to protect from crash, for contactors, for cooling, for switches, the battery size cannot really be scaled linearly. And therefore, we believe that the associated cost advantages would probably only be passed by the manufacturers, by the OEMs to the first-tier suppliers to a very small percentage. Therefore, the cost benefits of the HEI technology comes from an entirely different direction. It's the significant EV powertrain system improvements that can be achieved by incorporating the HEI. The inverter becomes smaller, lighter, more cost efficient. Why? Well, look, if we eliminate switching losses, we can reduce the semiconductors. If we increase the switching frequency, we can reduce the intermediate circuit capacitor. And the overall concept gives a better EMC performance, which will allow to reduce EMC measures. And only these 3 points are the key components in an inverter, and most probably make already 40% of the overall cost. Of course, if you can reduce the size, material costs will be reduced as well. Furthermore, reducing losses means better cooling requirements or reduced cooling requirements. That means that we get advantages in durability of the products because the thermal stress level will be reduced. And therefore, for all these reasons, I'm personally convinced that it is the reduction of these 3 things, cost, weight, and size, that will attract the interest of customers, regardless of the fact that we already know that there is an interest in devices with characteristics like HEI. Ari, what do you think? Do you have anything to add on that?
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Harold. Maybe just putting it in a slightly different form. The key matrices that we saw in the past based on our experience comes down to basically energy density. That is how much kilowatt per kilogram you can achieve, both in the mobility OEMs or now in an emerging sector, which is the electric flight. It's all around the kilowatt per kilogram or kilowatt per liter, which is the energy density. Other matrices can be expressed as dollar per kilogram or dollar per kilometer and so on. And this is where we're going with the HEI.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Which specific sector, aside from the personal EV, does Hillcrest view as most suited, at least initially, to its HEI and electric powertrain prototypes? Potential applications mentioned in previous NRs and the company's website run the gamut from aeronautics, renewable energy, consumer electronics, satellites, and high-speed rail. With seemingly endless possibilities, is it possible to be more specific about initial targets?
Yep, I can take that. So basically, the HEI can be effectively deployed across the entire electrification spectrum, wherever a conversion from AC to DC or DC to AC is needed. What we are doing basically is designing a generic technology which can be completely scaled for any voltage or power range. The total spectrum can range from, as Don mentioned before, from renewables, e-mobility, but it can go even to appliances, heavy machinery. It's just it's endless, and at the end of the day, we'll need to decide what not to do. Initially, we are aiming the HEI to be marketed as a standalone inverter technology aimed at the EV, emerging aerospace, and the electric flight markets, where every gram is important for these guys, and the renewable energy production. And as opportunities present themselves, we can really be everywhere with this type of inverter. If we look at for example, the renewable market, then power generation efficiency improvements is directly connected at large scale to more power being generated from the same machine at some given time. So of course that goes to the revenue of the production. In EV powertrain, this is something very, very interesting for us to emphasize. Basically, there are three main components in an EV powertrain: the motor on one side, the battery on the other side. In between, you have the inverter. What we did with this technology is basically taking the inverter to the maximum possible, physically possible efficiency. So that's basically 30% of this powertrain. And we believe this is very valuable for the market and moving forward. Another key aspect to mention here is governments and regulation bodies, which are setting really stringent goals for the next year for energy density and for cost. For example, the DOE in the United States has published a target of reducing the size and weight by 87% of a 100 kilowatt inverter. That's a substantial reduction of size, and reduce the cost by 20%. We believe that our technology will assist and will enable OEMs, tier one suppliers, and any group that is designing to meet this regulation, which eventually will be posed on these industries. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is the HEI being developed at the request of an OEM or with a particular OEM or partner in mind?
I could answer
Harold,
that.
you?
Yes. Well, we currently developed a POC, and that was not developed to an OEM request. Since it is a 10 kilowatt inverter, it's clear that it doesn't fit to a powertrain. But we were approached, of course, by OEMs with ideas or questions. And we believe that we know pretty good what it has to have inside in order to be able to show to potential customers what they would like to see. And that's already included in the POC. But the target is to go the next step, and then we will have, of course, HEI MVP, which will suit the EV market.
Okay.
Yeah.
A news release from a competing company dated August 11th regarding their Q2 financial results shows a large increase in expenditures, and the reason for this was the cost increases incurred as the company is transitioning from POC stage to the commercialization phase. Q1, how much does Hillcrest expect this phase to cost them? Q2, how will it be paid? Sounds like a question for Don.
Yeah, thank you very much. Both good questions. Bottom line is the commercialization phase can take a few different directions. Are we developing it with a potential joint venture partner? Are we developing it with an OEM? Or are we developing it internally? We're not prepared to get into the costs of what it looks like. We've definitely done our estimates, and we know that. The other question is, how will it be paid for? One of the things that we're quite pleased about is that there's no shortage of what we consider to be institutional interest. And I think the next stage for the company at some point in time will be to engage with institutions, get them involved, get their support on a number of different levels. We're currently in conversations with them. And I'll just say more information to come as we go forward, and either one of them selects us or we select the proper partner with us. So as far as the numbers go, not at liberty to be giving you numbers now. We are aware that when you change from POC to commercialization stage, it does increase costs. There is a question that's put on the chat rooms here or on the board about, does that include, are we intending to manufacture? And that's a key component to the answer to this question. We don't intend to manufacture product. We have relationships with manufacturers that we can bring in. So a large amount of our money won't be put in deploying or creating a manufacturing plant. Inventory is not good for us. Our money and focus will be spent on R&D and deploying that. So institutional support is something that we see coming in very soon. And as far as the budget, and the cost of that commercialization, we'll make that public as it's known.
Very good. What have you achieved with the POC so far?
Ari, I think that's for you.
Yep, thank you. So as it was published this morning, we said we showed that we can eliminate basically the switching losses, and that was something that we expected. Very challenging, but very, very happy that we reached this point. Basically, what that means is that switching losses are major between 40 and 50, really depending on the application. Our main source of losses of heat production, and we were able to eliminate that. Another thing that happened when while achieving that is that we eliminated a long-term trade-off that us engineers have been dealing with, breaking our heads around, between the switching frequency and the losses. Up until now, these guys, you wanted higher switching frequency, you have to pay with more losses, or the other way around. We have solved this long-term trade-off, which will enable now companies, us, and companies that are dealing with motor controls or grid applications to take their technologies to a different level. And maybe just to explain a bit about this, the switching frequency, basically what it means that you can use smaller components, and the whole process of energy conversion becomes more efficient. Up until now, you had to pay with losses, but we eliminated that. Other than that, I think that we can talk about the next steps for the POC, which will happen in the next couple of weeks until the end of Q4. Is basically continue with benchmarking, which means to compare our results with a conventional inverter topology, to be able to actually quantify the efficiency gain. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? How much is that? Quantify also the EMI, electromagnetic interference behavior, which Harold mentioned just a bit. I won't go into that because that's a really subject by itself. We believe that we can reduce significantly this big component in the powertrain, the EMI filter. We intend to quantify that and gain additional engineering knowledge that we need in order to move to the next step beyond the POC. We use it as a learning platform, so that's what's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Okay, and the hardware configuration or the software behind it pending patent right now. Per the shareholder update, that patent protection has been filed. Also, what jurisdictions are the patents initially being filed in, and what are your plans to file worldwide?
Back to you, Ari.
Yeah, thank you. You're right. We've published that we've submitted several provisional patents for some aspects of our technologies. At this point, we would prefer not to elaborate on that to keep our competitive advantage. As these patents become public, then we will of course announce it.
Curious if Tech 1 HEI requires Tech 2 system control to be proven to be commercially viable, or can the HEI be marketed as a standalone product for integration into other companies' existing or future systems? Ari?
Yep, I'll take it. So as mentioned previously, we intend to market the HEI as a standalone product, as an inverter. Can be used to design new systems, can replace existing systems. However, let's say most of the value that we see with the HEI would come from a system level design where it affects also other components. Tech 2, we haven't said much about that. That's a system. It's a system of components where the HEI is a fundamental component in this system in a way that it just maximally exploits the system benefits of what we want to do. Maybe it's worth mentioning that this is something that we call the building block approach, whereas we are designing technologies which are generic, just like you have Lego blocks, then you can use them and assemble from them bigger systems. That's the approach, leveraging technologies that we develop. First of all, take them to market as is, but then leverage them in other systems, and that's Tech 2. At this point in time, I guess that's everything that I can say about Tech 2. Thank you.
Okay. Having an institutional following was previously mentioned. At what point are you planning on engaging and pursuing institutional investment? Now that POC on the HEI is or will be complete in Q4 and Tech 2 is well underway, when will the marketing campaign begin, and what is planned to attract new investors? Maybe BNN interviews, other avenues of attracting more institutional interest.
Yeah, I'll take that. We briefly touched on it, and again, we're pretty excited about in two ways. Number one, we've been approached by institutional, and we've approached institutional. So the interest is out there. We're a company that's advanced from technology viewpoint. I think that we're a company that is a good entry level for any institution that would deem it worthy to support us or get involved with us. And that interest is out there. It's out there. The marketing campaign, and I'm assuming what they mean is a marketing campaign for the market, and what is planned to attract new investment. And BNN keeps coming up in other forms. I would suggest we have talked to just about every platform we can think of that would be able to assist us at a point where we have something to say that we've done. The big thing for us is credibility. There's a lot of companies that say we hope to do this. We did that with our MOUs at the beginning. We were trying to align ourselves with various organizations, and now we know we have a focus, and we've got a partnership, and we know where we're going. So the marketing campaign is something that's being developed as we speak. We have talked to all the groups that you would think we would talk to. We've seen proposals from all the groups that you would think would send us a proposal, and it is part of the internal business plan for us to look at, assess, pick and choose what's best for us, and move on that. I would think that at this point in time, we're coming up to American Thanksgiving, third week of November. It won't slow us down from initiating and getting involved in the market, but we are aware that December is usually an interesting month for the markets up or down. I would think that the beginning of next year is when bigger campaigns or bigger initiatives would be pursued. But I want to leave you with the message that we're already in conversation, and we will be starting something before the end of the year. Just at what level hasn't been decided.
Stepping back for a moment, in the last webinar you mentioned you could be producing 350 BOE per day, resulting in $350 to $400 in monthly free cash flow. Where are we on that, and what are the plans moving forward?
Yeah, great question, and one that I'm glad we have an opportunity to address. The oil field itself is lagging. In our last press release, we said that it was doing between 30 and 60 barrels a day. The legacy wells, the ones that we took over, they stopped producing. They stopped producing at a time, and we did whatever we could to try and have them produce. Now, the oil itself, we're not making money, we're not losing money. There are some other sites, another well locations on the site that could be drilled. But I think what the board is considering right now and where we're at is that any institutional funding that we would receive from a green or clean focused fund would be problematic if we had the oil. So I think what we're looking at right now, the revenues that we hoped had come are not coming. The production that we hoped would sustain is not there. We're not losing money, but I do think we're looking at options as to where the oil sits in our company and how we do something with that. There are people that are asking us if it's for sale. The answer is yes. And it might just be if the oil stops that we just remediate the whole field. That's in discussion at this point in time. No decisions have been made, but I think it's highly likely that in the very, very near future, you'd see oil out of the company. That's as close and as clear a description as I can give you.
When can we expect people with a background and or connections in software, electronics, engineering, electrical vehicles to actually join the board of directors?
The reason I'm hesitating is I've said probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 times on this call that we're only as good as the team that we have. We have a phenomenal base team. We know that's going to expand. It will expand in many different areas from the board on down, advisors, employees, executives, and the board. So, you know, it's an old saying, but watch this space because there are discussions going on. But I can't say more than that. As soon as we have a change, we'll make sure that we announce it.
When does Hillcrest plan to reach out to banks and platforms like Wealth Simple, update its corporate info so you're no longer being held out as an oil and gas company to the broader public? And I might add, you know, Market Watch or, you know, any Yahoo Finance or whatever. So.
Yeah, great question. And we're very happy to say that as of today, the CSE put us under technology. We're no longer an oil and gas company on the CSE, which then allows us to now go out. And that's been something we've hoped to have changed 2 months ago, and through a glitch, it just didn't happen. We are now a technology company on the CSE, allows us to reach out to all the other platforms that you're mentioning and make sure that we're changed, because we do not want to be in the oil and gas segment or referenced as an oil and gas company.
Has Hillcrest experienced a supply crunch for any essential products or materials, and does it anticipate it will in the near future? If yes, will this affect current targets? And if so, what is Hillcrest's contingency plan, if any?
Harold, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yes, I could answer this. Well, we are not immune to these effects of the global supply chain, but fortunately, we have not been significantly affected at this stage. We have a very good relationship established through the years directly to suppliers. That's valid for semiconductors as well as capacitors, which I would say are the main components. Everything else will be manufactured. And of course, controllers are as well an issue. And very often, these suppliers are happy to supply their parts because they know they will end up in prototypes for the OEMs. But still, that does not mean that it's absolutely safe yet, and we will try and give our best. But we hope, through to this relationship, to be able to mitigate some of these effects.
You know, thank you. Thank you on that. Campbell, I just realized I should have mentioned something when people were asking about the institutions and investment and so on and so forth. I should say that, you know, the company at this point in time, with or without the oil, we're debt-free, which is not something we were 6 months ago, 8 months ago. So we are debt-free. We still have multiple millions in the bank, just over $2 million in the bank. We still have some warrants and options that are being, but that $2+ million that we have in the bank, by our estimates, will survive, go to the end of the first quarter of 2022. So we're not, we're making intelligent and what we think is well thought out choices as to how we take the next step. But the company's cash position and our financial status is fairly solid at this point in time.
Excellent. Going to wrap up with a few questions that were sent in the last hour, and then I think we'll close. If any of you have any other further questions, just send them in, and we'll answer them. We can't get to every question, and of course, you can always we encourage you to share this presentation and your feedback. So, all right. So, is a third-party validation already being prepared for testing the HEI 1 and 2 techs after the POC being established?
Harold, can I pass it over?
Yes, I would like to answer that. Well, I'll answer it from our perspective regarding EV market, for instance. The validation is more or less a process between the B and C sample phase of a product, and that's usually done by the OEM. We don't see a reason why it should be validated by a third party. If the part works, the OEM will validate it, and the design will be done accordingly to its demands.
Okay. And just to clarify, someone did ask again, is Hillcrest going to manufacture product? So
no, it's not our intention at this time to get into manufacturing.
Yeah. Could you discuss the relationship with New Deal companies and their contribution?
Ah, good point. Should have put that in. The EV NUCO that we call them that we're talking to, those conversations are on a weekly basis now. They're well established in charging, other forms of technology, so on and so forth. I think what I would say at this point in time is we're not at a point where there's been any negatives. The conversations are going well. Hillcrest has become stronger and more advanced than when we first started the discussions. Therefore, believe that we can be more value and contribute more. So I would suggest, as we put in the press release, that any determination there would be given before the end of the year, but talks are on and have taken a different direction, which I think is a benefit to Hillcrest.
And I think I have the perfect sort of closing question as we move to close. Where do you see Hillcrest in a year? And you could kind of build into that kind of catalyst. You could kind of summarize the next 2 years, really.
Wow.
That would be a benefit.
We know where we are. We know where we'll be in a year is substantially farther ahead than where we are now. We've got technology that we don't believe exists with anybody else. We believe that puts our foot in the door in the industries that we're focusing on. We've got the people. I keep coming back to the people. Harold and Ari and their teams are such that that we will move as fast as the technology is developed. We know there's a need for it. We know there's a desire for it. So where we'll be in a year, we've already mentioned the HEI proof of concepts, the MVPs, the new technology will be announced. Commercialization conversations have already started. They can become more formal as the technology becomes more. So there's no way to say exactly where we'll be in a year, but we'll be a far different company than we are now and a far stronger company than we are now. I just don't see where our limits are based on what we've put together at this point in time.
Excellent. Want to really ask people to please share your feedback, either right now or when you log out or in one of the follow-up emails. That would be really great, the good and the bad, but the good questions, especially the encouraging ones, are most welcome. And this event will be available on replay about an hour and a half after we wrap up. And the visual link that you got will actually, if you log in, do that, will take you to the replay. So you could share that with your friends, and post it and all that, and spread the word. And with that, pass it back to Don for a 10-second close. I think we've covered everything.
Will be a quick close. We'd like to thank everybody for attending, signing up, attending. We do appreciate that you have questions. We also are quite proud of the fact that we like to be as transparent as we possibly can, being a public company, and we will answer everything we can. You may not always like the answer, but we'll be honest about where we are at the time. Thank you very much for the shareholders that have put questions in beforehand and those that participated here. And Amvest, once again, for giving the platform for us to be able to interact with the shareholders and investing public.
You're most welcome, and everyone come visit us in New York. Good day.
Thank you.